please have a seat. You can move this here. I'm so happy to see so many children here today because this is about trafficking in persons, and people like to look for young people to traffic them. So, and I see you have on the right color, like I do. It's orange, right? And what are we doing today? We are speaking out against trafficking in persons, okay? That's what we're doing. What are we doing? Absolutely. So I started the protocol already established. So today is a critical occasion. It's World Day Against Trafficking in Persons, all over the world, because this is a problem we have not only in the Bahamas, but all over the world, especially in other countries like India, Africa, and in the Middle East. You have so many children trafficked. It's very, very sad. So we here in the Bahamas will do our part to make sure that we kill that disease of trafficking our children, right? And when we do that, we will leave no child behind in the fight against human trafficking. This is a dreadful, dreadful violation of human rights and dignity. It takes away the dignity of the person being trafficked. It's a dark epidemic, and it targets the most vulnerable among us, women and children. As we assemble here today, we must reflect on all the lives destroyed by just horrible crime. And we have to recommit and reconfirm to eradicate it from our society. Let me tell you the story about a young girl named Shaima Ali. Her story was told on CNN, I think. Shaima's descent into human trafficking began when she was only 8 years old. Imagine that. How many of you here are 8 years old? Oh wow, you see, look at the wonderful young children. Thank you. Imagine, I have to tell you the story. This young lady was 8 years old, living in Egypt with her poor family, and they made the very heartbreaking decision to sell her to domestic labor, to a wealthy family. Shaima's life altered overnight. She was trafficked into the United States and made to work long hours every day, cooking, cleaning, and looking after the family's children that she worked for. She lived under constant fear and loneliness, with very little possibility for going to school or for having a normal childhood. Could you imagine? You saw how small our 8-year-olds are. Could you imagine a young girl at 8 years old like that, being sold into slavery, being trafficked? This is what we're up against. Shaima's new existence was one of non-stop work and perpetual sadness. And the family she served treated her not as a child, but as property, exploiting her youth and her vulnerability. She was made to sleep in a cold, dark garage, and every move she made, they watched her. She was monitored. And the solitude and the mental abuse she suffered was so traumatic, just as the physical pain she suffered. And despite the tremendous odds, she never lost hope. One day, a concerned neighbor saw her, and she thought something was wrong, and she called the authorities. This is what we have to think about here. Whenever you see something look like it's wrong, you call the authorities. If you see children looking sad, or like they're in a situation that they're being forced to stay in, call the authorities. What will we do? Call the authorities. We always have to look out for our brothers and sisters, especially our young ladies, our sisters. Call the authorities if something does not look right. And it happens very much. Okay? So, because the neighbors saw something was wrong, and the neighbors called the authorities, the young lady was saved. She was saved from her captors. by a devoted non-profit group, just like we have here today. Let's give a round of applause to one of our groups here today, Princess Squad. We must thank Princess Squad for all that she does for our young children, young girls especially, to make them know themselves, love themselves, and to know that they're special and priceless. Yes, so Shaima, her experience was told, like I said, in the CNN report, and it emphasizes the urgency of our efforts here in the Bahamas to combat this heinous crime. And it serves as a sharp reminder of the horror of human trafficking. The theme chosen this year by the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime resonates deeply with my office, the Office of the Spouse of the Prime Minister. Our portfolio is dedicated to protecting the vulnerable within our community, particularly women and children, and combating malicious effects of gender-based violence against women and children. Hi, everybody. Everybody's listening? Okay. So, we know now that children are the most vulnerable victims of human trafficking. And occasionally, their families can be enticed and fooled into telling them that, let me have your child. She will go to school, go to university, and she'll have a better life. Don't believe it, okay? They exploit those children, they strip them of their innocence, and they make them very sad. And the devastation on these young lives is so intense and long-lasting that they leave lifelong scars. So as a society here in the Bahamas, we have a moral and an ethical obligation to ensure that no child is left behind. What is our moral obligation? No child is left behind. One more time. No child is left behind. Our children will be safeguarded and allowed to thrive in an environment free of fear and free of violence. Listen, I don't want to tell you all what the statistics are on human trafficking. It's horrible. About a third of the world's population of women and children are trafficked. Okay, and that's how bad it is. It's alarming. That means our mission here is great, because we don't want them to come and take our kids. The Bahamas says, listen, if you all know how good we are doing in this world, I travel and I tell you, Bahamians, we are number one. We have a high class of living. We have, when I say a high class of living, we have very good educated people. People that go to the United States and everywhere else and excel. And we want our kids to continue this. Everywhere I go, we do well. Even I do well when I travel, you know? And so that says a lot for us here in the Bahamas. So we're going to make sure that our children are not trafficked, nor engaged in sexual exploitation, nor any other sort of violence. All right? Because every statistic is a child. Every statistic is a person. And every day we have stories highlighting the reality of child trafficking. We have hundreds of African children trafficked to the United Nations, to the United Kingdom. We had recently a Nigerian baby farm was raided. All they were doing was getting young girls pregnant and giving and selling the kids. Those poor teenage mothers, they were forced to give up their newborns to human traffickers. These are the things that are happening. It's horrid. In India, there's an increase in child trafficking, especially among COVID-19. So we have more than 1,000 victims being trafficked in Southeast Asia. And we had 17 people arrested after child trafficking just in Michigan, right there in the United States. So these headlines that I'm telling you about, they're not just words, you know. They are a call to action for us. These people are being prosecuted, and we have the same call to action to make sure people who traffic our young children are arrested as well. And my office is steadfast in this commitment for this cause. My office partners with various organizations, both governmental and non-governmental, to create a comprehensive network of care and protection. However, we realize that awareness alone is not sufficient. We have to provide our communities with the tools and resources that they need to properly address this evil. Right? We agree? We want our communities to have the tools and resources needed to properly address this evil. So today I urge each one of you to become an active participant in this fight. If you see your friend, young ladies, if you see your friend, somebody else is picking her up from school and taking her elsewhere, report it. Because all of us are in this fight together. If you see something going on next door, young ladies going in and out, and you don't see a parent around, report it. We have to report when we see things that don't look right. Always report it. And it is critical to remember that behind every statistic is a human being. A child with hopes and aspiration. A child who deserves to grow up in a world that is safe and just. We cannot allow them to become statistics. And we must amplify their voices and advocate for their rights relentlessly. So in conclusion, let us all leave this gathering with a renewed sense of purpose and determination. Let us resolve to leave no child behind and to work hard until the atrocity of human trafficking is eliminated from our society. Together, all of us together, we will make a difference. We want every child to be free to dream, to be free to thrive, and to be free to live fearlessly. Okay? So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I thank you for listening, and I hope that we all find the strength through God Almighty for our shared commitment to help us through this noble cause that we're seeking here today. And what it is we're going to do, we are not leaving any child behind. Okay, let's say that one more time. Right. No child left behind. Okay, let's remember that. No child left behind. Okay, so thank you very much for listening, and let us continue to do our good work.
Thank you.